Hi, I'm Lisa. Welcome back to the ABC of Accounting. I am squeezing this video in and hopefully I get it done in time before the builders start bashing holes through my walls, which will be very noisy and also very dusty, but also very exciting. Okay, let's get going. I want to talk about pricing. It's a subject that's coming up quite a lot at the moment because for the simple reason that costs are going up. But that's nothing new, right? Costs are always going up. The micro BNCs have just had a 3% hike on cotisation, but the whole building trade has seen the cost of materials go through the roof in the last couple of years. And even if it's not that, even if it's just electricity or fuel that goes in the car, costs are always going up. They're not ever going down. So we have to be sure that the price we put on our product or our service is going to make all of the time and the effort that we put into work profitable, and it's not just going to end up as ours paying for the privilege of working, because we don't want that. All right, there's a right way and a wrong way to fix our prices, and I'm going to start with the wrong way because unfortunately I think it's quite common. And the reason why it's wrong, it's not like a personal judgment, the reason why it's wrong is because most people tend to undercharge, and a lot of people will say, okay, I believe that the value of my product or service is X, so that's what I'm going to charge. I'm going to charge X. And if I'm feeling particularly daring or brave or confident, then I might add a couple of extra percent on top, but basically it's X. And then I'll pay all my professional expenses, and then I'll pay my tax and cotisation, and whatever's left over at the end of all that, that'll be for me. If you were to explain to an accountant that this is how you decide on your prices, after they have thrown their hands up in Gallic horror and after the many no's, what they will tell you is you need to start from completely the opposite end of the equation, and what you need to do is calculate your TJM, which is your taux journalier moyen, or in English, your average daily rate. And I know that's not a complicated thing to remember in English, but I can't get used to it, and so here I am always still saying TJM, and I hope you'll bear with me on that. Okay, how do we calculate our TJM? Well, we need to do this little exercise which starts off with listing all of our personal expenses. And this is very easy if you have previously been salaried in France, because when you're salaried, well, you know exactly how much money is coming in every month, and then you can just organize your life to fit that amount of money. But if you've never been salaried in France and you've only ever been self-employed, well, that's more difficult because the money comes in irregularly, but you still have to spend it the same. And some months that's surprisingly easy to do, and other months you're left going, I don't understand. I know I earned money. Why is there no money left? If this sounds like you and you want to avoid that situation, then I would invite you to spend some time doing this exercise. It won't take you very long if you've already spent some time thinking about it, but it will take you a bit longer, obviously, if you haven't. And I have prepared this short list for you. I'm not claiming that it's in any way comprehensive, but it is a good start. I'm going to leave it up here because you may want to screenshot it, and maybe some of these things do not apply to you. Maybe you don't have rent or a mortgage, which is great, but maybe you do have older children who are in further education and are costing you a fortune. If I have put things on here that don't apply to you, just ignore them. If there are things I've left out that do apply to you, obviously add them in. You need to personalize this as much as possible. And let's just imagine, for the sake of our example, that for you, you need to cover all of your expenses, 2,500 euros a month, okay? It may be 2 or 3 times that, it may be half of that, I don't know. It's important that you know, but this is an example, so we're just going to say 2,500 a month. And then obviously what we need to do is multiply by 12, and we'll get to 30,000 euros. That's how much you need to cover your personal expenses. But then we haven't finished, because you also have professional expenses. And again, I have written you a short list here. Many of you will have some kind of materials to buy. If it's not building materials, it might be jewelry making materials or sandwich making materials, whatever it is that you do. Many of you will have some stuff that you need to buy. If you have a premises, then obviously there will be rent, there'll be CFE, there'll be utilities, there'll be insurance. I have put tools and software. Some of that may go down in expenses, some of it may actually be listed as depreciable assets. And if you're interested in depreciable assets, then just leave me a note in the comments, because I can make you a video about that if you would like to understand that better. But we do need to list these professional expenses regardless of what kind of business structure you are, because even if you're a micro, even if you can't deduct your professional expenses, you still have to invoice that money to avoid paying for them out of your own pocket, right? And again, for the sake of our demonstration, I have imagined that the total of these professional expenses comes in at another 30,000 euros. Now that may be wildly unrealistic for you. It might be very realistic for you. Again, it's just an example, bear with me. So now we know we need 30,000 euros for our personal expenses, and we know we need 30,000 euros for our professional expenses, but we haven't finished yet. Because remember, you also need to allow for the amount that you're going to pay in tax and cotisation and social charges that's going to allow you to keep 30,000 euros. And if you still don't understand how those social charges are calculated, then I suggest you watch this video, this I don't know where it is, this video, which I'll also link in the description. And that will explain very clearly how your social charges are calculated, and you'll know how much you need to put aside for that expense. For our example, there's going to be a tax and cotisation cost of 17,000 euros. It's going to vary. That's not exact because it's going to depend on the kind of business structure that you have, but also on if you have any other income coming in, and also on the composition of your family. There's a few different factors there which stop me from being very exact, but 17,000 is very feasible. And now if I add all of those three up, 30, 30 and 17, I'm going to come to a grand total of 77,000 euros. That's what I need to invoice to cover all of my expenses. And this 77,000 euros is hors tax, because remember, the VAT will come in, but also it will go straight out again to the government. So it's almost as if it didn't exist. And just as a side note, you'll notice that that's also for many people, depending on your activity, but for many activities, the limit of what you can really do with a micro. Okay, if you're in a micro enterprise, then you can't really do any more than that. Okay, now I have this 77,000 euros. I need to divide it by the number of working days in a year. And as an accountant, you would take an average of somewhere between 180 and 200, because that doesn't sound like very much, does it? It sounds like half of the year, but you know, between weekends and férié and then the holidays that you're going to take, you might be off sick sometimes. We usually count 180 to 200. I've counted 180. If you count more, that's fine. Just personalize your calculation. If you work less, you'll need to personalize your calculation as well. But if I divide 180 into 77,000, then I am going to come to a grand total of 427 euros and 78 cents. If I don't invoice at least that, then I am not earning enough money to finance the life that I have at the moment. So I can change my life. We can talk about that. Or I can put my prices up. That's the easy answer, the obvious answer. Some people do it very easily. Some people do it more reluctantly, but they do it anyway. And other people will say, I can't do that. My market won't tolerate that. If there are factors which are stopping you from putting your prices up, then I didn't want to make this video too long. What I suggest you do is hop on over to this one, where we talk about those different factors and what we can do about them. If this has been helpful, I'd love it if you subscribed, and I'll see you over here.